am here with my friend Trouble, or Gillian. Trouble about her channel. She lives in Australia, and we started talking, and I thought, right, well, we'll record it. Hi, Trouble.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
Anyway, very quickly, explain what you like doing more than anything with your camera.
With my camera at the moment, I'm photographing the planets, and so there's Jupiter, and I can get its four moons, and in the same photograph is a blurry image of Pluto in the background, and it's slowly moving behind.
Oh, explain. You're in Australia as well, by the way. You live in Australia, just so that everybody knows.
Yes. And what's really weird is, like, it's moving behind Pluto. So, like, on my star chart, like the one that I have on the internet, at the moment, Pluto is behind Jupiter, but when E1 photographs it from America, it's beside it.
Well, I noticed when I went up to London that there was this really low star that was right there, sort of, right next to me almost in the sky. But when I come home, it's moved over there a little bit, so it's a bit further away from me. So why would it be closer in London than here? I mean, in reality, that they're supposed to be hundreds of thousands of miles away, it shouldn't move at all. But in London, it's closer to me than it is here.
Well, what I don't get about what I'm seeing is, like, I get that, you're on a different part of the world, so, it's twisted from where I see it. But if the planets are as far away as they are saying, wouldn't Pluto be behind Jupiter for you and me? Because they would, line up so closely out in the sky. Why would it be beside it for you guys and behind it for me if they're really, really far away? But,
I know. I don't understand it, or how that difference from London even to here. Well, that's only about 60 miles. It's not thousands of miles. You're thousands of miles from me. I don't get it either. I don't even know what we're living in. It's so weird what we live in. It seems to work, and it's all supernatural, but I don't get it. I don't get how the stars, like, how I can get stars, America get the same stars, but they're here and they're there, but I just don't get it. It's like that.
yeah, Pluto.
I mean, I've got a picture of Trump up, by the way. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, because you were just saying that, but when I decided to put the recorder on. But I always find it really weird. When you're at a beach and you say you're 10 feet away from me, and you take a picture of the sun, it comes to your feet, not mine, and I take a picture of the sun. We're standing 10 feet away from each other. The sun comes to my feet, but not yours. How can that be? That's just crazy.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it until people mentioned it.
Oh no, it's all crazy. So you're experimenting then and looking at photographs. That's really good, Gillian. I just wanted people to know what you like doing. You like using your camera and taking pictures of the stars down there or over there, wherever you are. We were talking about.
I'm just trying to match it to what they say the Earth is. Like the globe model. And because the globe model's from the northern hemisphere, it doesn't match here. And a lot of the stuff I flip, like it's a complete reverse, like the moon. But the planets do a quarter turn. Like, they are vertical in the sky. They go straight up and over my head. Where for you guys, they're horizontal. And that's like a quarter turn. I would think, well, if they're horizontal for you, shouldn't they be horizontal for me? Because that would be a flip, but just in a different order. But it's not. And so it's just taken me a little while to wrap my head around the whole thing.
You said that when you're looking up any maps or anything for your any information you want, they've only done it for the northern hemisphere. They haven't done it for the southern hemisphere.
Yeah, so I've asked when summer solstice is. It gives me the northern hemisphere, and it's like, no, that's winter. That's not going to be the longest day. That's the shortest day of the year, not the longest. Yeah.
Having that talk with that guy, I can't remember his name now. The one in Australia. Do you remember? The one thing I liked about what he said, this is a few months, well, it's probably about a year ago we had that hangout. Or maybe a bit more. But what it was is, he was monitoring it. And what it is, in our world, in the northern hemisphere, the sun has to get higher in the sky for us to be hotter. But it's the opposite in Australia. For you to be hotter, the sun has to get lower in the sky. So if it's higher, it's winter, and lower, it's summer.
No, it gets higher here in the summer. Like, at the moment, it's moved towards the north. So it's pretty much on the horizon.
Well, I just remember having that hangout with him, and that's what he said, and I was like, so it's the complete opposite in Australia than it is here. Well, you know the analema.
No.
I don't like the analema. I don't ever see anything like an analema. That sun and moon could be, well, the sun, we'll leave the sun out of it, but the moon can be north, south, up, down. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. So how do they do the analema? Well, then each month it's doing that. You know, it's changing in the month, I mean. In the month it's changing. It's not like doing the sequence where you can say, oh, look, it's putting itself like a figure of 8 through the sky, or whatever they do. It's doing all sorts. When I see it, it's up there, down there. It's north, it's south. Some months, some days in the summer, it'll come up south. But when it comes up more north, we get much hotter weather with the moon when it comes up north.
I can see it doing the figure 8. It moves back, left, and right. So when it's flipped. It flipped a while. Every 6 months it flips. So so you got that celestial equator where Orion's belt is right on the celestial equator, and the sun and the moon move back and forth either side of that. But the moon. When it's a full moon, when it's a full moon, it moves away from the celestial equator. When it becomes a new moon, it moves back to the celestial equator. Then when it's full, it fills out and moves back out again. But then at that 6 month point of the year, it moves back to the middle and becomes a new moon, and it crosses the celestial equator and it goes the other side. And then it starts to fill up to go out that way. And then it comes back to the center and it's a new moon, back out. And so it does this flip thing every 6 months, and that's probably what you probably.
Well, do you know what? I look east, right? My office looks east. So, most days I'm up for the dawn, so I get a good idea about how the light's changing through the sky. But there's a row of houses just past me that go like east to west. Now, if you imagine one of those semicircles, and I know this is just hypothetically, but you stick it on next doors where the houses are. So in the winter, the sun will be coming up to the right of that semicircle, and in the summer it'll be coming up on the left. It always goes across the sky and goes to those houses, or comes up to those houses and goes across. Well, no, in the winter it probably stays a bit more south, but in the summer it always goes to those houses. It never goes over my house, and it goes over the sun and the moon, always go over the houses next to me. And so it's like it's on a semicircle. It'll come up, and I never see this thing. I just see it doing like half a triangle, or well, it comes in at an angle, goes across, and then goes off at an angle. I don't know what shape it is, but it's just not a semicircle or all those things. It's not circling. It's all lines. It's all like half triangles. How it's moving through the sky.
Yeah, my house is pretty close to lined up with north and south, like crossways, but the sky's on a bit of a tilt. The sun doesn't rise in the east and set in the west. It rises sort of in the northeast and sets in at the moment, east, and then as it becomes summer, it will rise in the east, but it will set more southwest.
Can I just ask you, I actually thought this year that I couldn't believe how north the light was about a month ago. I was like, wow. And then, like last week or the week before, I was thinking, wow, that light is now really north. And then, I don't know whether it's just you notice more when you're more awake, but I was thinking how north everything was. It's like we've ticked round, like on a clock. We've ticked round just a little bit, like on a clock. I don't know. You just don't know what they're doing to us, do you? But anyway, listen, Trouble. We've got Trump up on the screen. What were you saying about him? We were saying, because I was trying to explain to you that it's just really strange that you have Nancy Pelosi, and then she's in one group over there, and you've got Trump, and then you've got all these people, and you've got even Ellen DeGeneres. She likes Obama, so she's on that side, and then you've got Trump, but they all work together.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, Trump's an idiot, but then you see the other side, and all of a sudden, Trump looks really good compared to the other side, and you're just left with the thought that he's probably the better of two options, but I don't think he's our saviour.
No, I don't either. We can't even work out which one who's playing him because different people play him. Don't
Well,
they?
yeah.
He's sometimes I think William Shatner is deep faked in with him or something. You think I've just seen William Shatner in him.
Well, in the beginning, when all these people were saying people were playing other people, I sort of thought, oh, that's a bit exaggerated, maybe one or two here and there. But then I started watching a couple of videos on how Shakespeare isn't real. And, I mean, he was a
he's
real
somebody
person,
else, isn't he? He's been put in as Shakespeare, but he's actually somebody else.
Well, someone else wrote all the works. Like, they're saying it's Sir Francis Bacon. And I'm like, oh my God, that blew me away. And that opened up the door to, holy shit, they could be playing all these different roles. That is a possibility. And then just last month I got another video on the same topic, and they were saying that they think Sir Francis Bacon wrote the King James Bible because it's the same style of writing. And I just thought, oh my gosh. Like, and so you do kind of, when you first hear that people are playing roles of other people, you think, oh, that's ridiculous. But it's actually quite not. It's really quite clever.
They're very busy, aren't they? You know when they say they were a year filming
what else have they got to do with their time? They own everything.
You know when they say they're a year filming a film, it's probably 3 months on the film and the other 6 months are filming all the other parts that are going to come out during the next year or two for them. The other parts they're playing.
Yeah, their other roles, yes.
But
yeah.
even the past, right, I said, Queen Victoria's grandson was the Tsar of Russia. And then you just got all these weird things, like when I looked up that Indian company that was trading, and that's where America was trading with them. They were coming over here and trading with them, and then they put embargoes on everything because what it was is a Dutch guy moved, and then New York was called New Amsterdam. So we're going, well, unless you do what we tell you, which we stopped them trading, we're going to go to war. So in the end, they went, okay, it's New York. So you've got all this going on. But then when I thought about things, they've got, hey, what it was is we went over to Africa and we got all the slaves and brought them over. And at the same time, you find that Barbary thing. And they were Africans and they were taking us. So how can we be taking them and they were taking us? It all seems a bit weird.
Oh, yeah. And I saw a doco recently about the Ottoman Empire traded more slaves than any other empire, and most of those were white. But they traded anybody because they were Muslims. They didn't care. So it's been going on forever since the day go. Just the ruling elite trading the lower class people of any ethnic race. Whether it's their own people or other people, I don't think they really cared.
No,
we call them lower paid employees now, but I think they were just more open back then.
I did tell you that I found out that this guy was saying that the Tartarians were 8 to 10 feet tall, and and they didn't eat; they just lived off the ether. And you're like, what? I mean, it's all just. Oh, I don't know.
I mean,
it's just.
I don't know. When I went to England, like, they had castles that even I had to duck to get through the doorway, so obviously there were some shorter people.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's my heritage or, because it's English people over here, but there just seem to be a lot of really tall people getting around now. Like, I hear of people, my son's 6 foot now, other people have got kids who are 6'3".
I have. 2 of my sons are 6'2". And one of my sons is 6'3", and he's got about size 12 feet, which he just goes into a shop and he says, give me what you've got, because they never have what he wants. They don't have it in his size. And
then I've got a photo of my grandparents, and the men are super tall, and the women are like short as, like tiny little fairies. So, I don't know. Maybe just different ethnic.
We're all from different clans, aren't we, I suppose?
But yeah, I don't know, maybe, because I obviously wasn't live 100 years ago or 50 years ago, but it just seems to be people
was
get
6 foot, and my sons are 6'2", 6'3", and like I'm 5'6", Ellie's about 5'7", 5'8", my daughter. So we're getting taller again slightly. It's going to take a long time before we get to 8 foot, but
yeah,
maybe that's it. Maybe the Tartarians, they grew to 8 and 10 foot.
For whatever reason, yes. Like maybe all this. Oh yeah, maybe
But
there's
I
a
know
lot of
that
different.
by Silbury Hill, just past Silbury Hill, is a place called Calne, Calne, and there's some houses there where the doors are only about 4 foot high. On the houses, like you'd have to duck to get in the houses.
Have you seen those pyramids that people have been building? I don't know if it was Russia or China or somewhere was doing it. And you grow things in them, or you put, like people have been making them in their houses, just smaller ones, and you put fruit and things inside them. It just seems to preserve them for longer. They don't go off as much, and plants seem to grow better in them. And I was thinking, I wonder if, like at stages, they built these pyramids and then instead of growing plants in them, they put children in there and they grew bigger. I don't know. but we do seem to be... Obviously, that's not happening now.
I love Silbury Hill, right? But when you go there, everything looks quite old and petrified. You know, like the crystal, the Avebury's there with all the stones. And, you know, I was thinking, well, these crystals, and they've just petrified. But, I mean, it's a bit hard to think that this is all a functioning thing. And then you think, how long ago? Why does it look... You know, like, if they were so advanced, even the Tartarians, you know, like, this is why I think... we're using their system. You are thousands of miles away from you. We do not have any delay. So whatever they've done, they've made it better. But I think that they were using the past people had technology, and they're using that so that we can talk. Because there's no delay between us. How can there be no delay? Even if you're using fibre optics or something, or however they do it, like, there's no delay. And then I was thinking... this technology is not new. You know, like, we are just using someone else's technology and they just know about it.
Yeah, it's like we've got a fractal pattern of it. It's the same results, but maybe slightly different. Like they were using crystals where we're more... Well, I think computers and everything have a... No, they don't have crystals in them, do they?
Well, you know what they say, don't you? There's supposed to be all these wires from here to New York. But New York's about 3,500 miles away, say, or something like that. I don't know. That's not an exact figure, but we'll just use 3,500 miles. That would have taken them years to lay wires under the sea bed, you know, on the seabed to go across. It would have taken years. You can't just put a bit of wire under a bit of sand. You know, you've got to make something for this wire to go in across the sea. So I just don't know how that happens, because I just don't see that being real either. But then they told us that we had double-decker trains from 1949 to 1971. People in London say it was supposed to go to Euston Station. Nobody remembers it. No one.
Well, the thing is, they got us busy buying shit that we don't even marvel at the technology that we do make. I do believe we have ships that, you know, lay down cables. They're pretty... if you're watching the videos on them, they seem to do it. I don't know. But then you think of the ships going around the ocean and how rough some of the seas are, and you think, how do they do it?
Well, do you know what? I just think they lie about everything to us because, you know, that famous case, the Watts case, I told you about it. But what it was, it's through something else. Patricia bought this package because we wanted to know was their birth certificates. And what it was is we worked out that America does not have a database of birth certificates. So if you don't have that, how can they implement and frighten us with all these other things when they don't even have a database of birth certificates? We are not this evolved, amazing place like they say we are. We're a broken thing watching virtual reality on the television. And believing that these people are real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, listen, we've been going for 20 minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we go?
No. No, that's about it.
So, Gillian,
So,
you don't believe any of it's real either, do you? You know, Trump and all this. It's just not real, is it? These people are just not real.
I fact if I know. They must be, but who's playing who, I don't know. They must have a base character.
I mean, you know that Elvis Presley is in Trump as well. Whether they like to just put pictures of Elvis Presley in so that you don't realise I don't know why, but you know they like to program us like this. Or he's Elvis Presley.
There's so many different technologies that they have a choice of using. It's hard to know which one. Is it just makeup and prosthetics? Is it green screening? Is it that virtual computer thing where you speak and the image of the person?
That one. You only need one photograph for that.
Yeah, I mean, and they've probably got other options on top of that as well. So I'm more at the stage where I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised. That's where I'm like, you never really have definite proof to go, ha. This, seals
you know something?
the deal.
In the Watts case was the district attorney, which he said, we saw you take their bodies out, but he didn't, because later on this person admitted that he didn't kill the children at home, that he took them to the oil tanks. So the district attorney in that case lied to the public. He's never apologised. And then what it was is, he ends up being this colonel that's murdered all these people and is in prison. And at the same time, we found him as a news reporter, an Australian news reporter, where he's about, say, 15 years younger, his hair's different, and he's reporting for Australia. Now, we found him in other places as well, and you're like, what?
Yeah, and you think, it sounds far-fetched, but when we went into 9/11, not 9/11, but, Iraq, or whichever, Iraq and just Kuwait, maybe it was Kuwait, we were all still a bit iffy, do we go, don't we go, and then they brought this little girl on television, she was like in her 20s maybe, and she was a nurse, and she was crying, and she was saying how the rebels came into the hospital and took all the machinery and even took children off the machinery, and we were all horrified, and we were like, yeah, you know what, let's go in there and save these children. And you find out that she's the niece of a Saudi prince, and so she was just acting.
Yeah, they do bring pictures up, like these people who are supposed to be injured. They showed this little girl. She just keeps turning up on the footage as a victim, all over the place.
Yeah. And yeah, until someone points it out to you, it just sounds so preposterous, it's not funny. But then
I got shocked today when that person said to me, go and have a look at Alice from the Brady Bunch, and I couldn't believe it was Ellen DeGeneres. Like, how didn't I see that before? I'm just like, it gets a bit much. I was a bit frantic on that hangout because I was like, oh my God, because me and Amy just found it, and I was like, no!
I know, but the age thing's a bit of a problem for that
Only 10 years, and I told you what they do. They wear masks. I know you don't like this idea. It can be. They're so thin, they're like a balloon thickness. You know what a balloon is? Your birthday balloons. And then it can have contours, it can have all sorts of things. So I told you I could say, I want you to make me a 70-year-old man. And by the time this thing comes out, it's so thin that when it's on, you're not going to really notice it that much. It's just like putting another layer of skin on, but it's contoured and it can do things. This is how they get away with it.
That's what I said here. They got so many options with their technology.
And that's the other thing we were talking about, like Trump, right? How can he be president? Oh, sorry, I just dropped Trouble on the floor. Hang on, Trouble, I've got to pick you up. How can we have Trump, right? How can we have Trump? Oh, I just sent you some kisses, sorry. How can Trump be president, right, when he knows that nearly every video about him is fake?
Well, if you think about it, I mean, most royals, most famous people in history have had a double to play their part. So it's not unreasonable to think that there's there's a lot of options that they could be doing.
I know, but how can he preside? Sense. How can he come out when every video I see of him doesn't look real and there's something wrong with it? How can he be president and stand there and all that when nearly every video of him is fake?
Well, he's a part of it because of that friggin' Simpsons cartoon, and I know that sounds silly, but they've got that scene of him going down the escalator. The friggin' signs are the same, everything's the same, and that's not like premonition stuff, that's choreographed. To a T.
Do you know what my upsetting thing was? I found this video.
He's a part of it all.
I found this video of Trump. It was about 30 years ago. And he was saying exactly the same things as he does now. What he was basically saying was, we look after the Middle East. And he was talking about the Middle East just like he does today. It's like, it sounds exactly the same. And you're thinking that's 30 years ago when he wasn't even a politician.
No, but he's a businessman, so he needs the bankers. Without them, he wouldn't have a...
I don't know how these people sleep. Like I sent you a video today from...
Very comfortably and very wealthily, and they have no problems with it.
The creator's son, and it's got all these people who are playing other parts, and you're thinking, how do these people live? How do they come on the television? You've got Brad Pitt there, and you've got, what's his name? I can't read his name. Benicio del Toro. He's that person as well. And you think, how do these people sleep at night when, if they're playing multiple parts? This is probably why anybody who's got businesses is part of them. I even heard Bob Geldof, my businesses, and I thought, oh, he's one. These people are all part of the same game.
Well, you got to be in it to win it.
Well, we don't want to be in it to win it. We want truth. Don't we want the truth? That's the one thing why we're here, isn't it? It's because we want the truth.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, the thing is,
in the
we've
end,
got to realise
with your pictures of, you could be in the future somebody who's marked, and people are going, and that Gillian, look what she did.
Well, they call us a civilised, we're civilised countries. We're not. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Our governments don't have our best interest at heart. And I'm not saying that's how it should be, but I think that's how it is. And our teachers and our parents, the world lies to us as you're growing up, and we're now lying to our kids, telling them this is how it is and it's great. We just all carry on the lie.
My son, I went round to see my granddaughter a few weeks ago, and she just wouldn't come near me because she was going, no, the virus. Like, I couldn't believe she's 5. So I actually left because I thought, it's one thing, what he was saying to me was, we've had to tell her that for school. But it's like, I just said, look, for school, you've got to stay away from everybody. But we know it's not real and you don't have to do it at home. No, he's promoting the corona thing. And I was so upset, and he was saying, oh, well, you just live down the rabbit hole. I said, no, I'm striving for the truth. It's you that lives down the rabbit hole.
Well, the other thing is...
I hated saying that to my son because he wasn't happy. But what am I supposed to do? Lie to him?
Well, if you do go down the road that there is a virus or something going around, then I would, or you're around people that do, it's still your choice as to whether or not to expose yourself. If you think you're healthy enough and you're just with your family and you... Oh, anyway, I just think...
I mean,
do you know what I mean? Like, even if there is a virus, what do you want us to do? All stay in our houses for 2 years? We're going to friggin' starve to death.
Well, they didn't go on about the economies. I mean, someone the other day, I can't remember who it was, we've lost thousands of jobs. Thousands... Oh, I know, it was the toxic nurse. She was just saying, they're not talking about the fact that they're just laying hundreds and hundreds of people off. This is a dire situation that we're not talking about.
Yeah, and how about telling us how to improve our immune system instead of, oh, you need your mask and this and that. How about, vitamin C, vitamin D?
Yeah, because they filmed all these things months ago, they can't tell, they can't put that in because they think about it, but they don't, like, for instance, instead of being up there, at least some of them going, look, our economy's doing really bad, we're trying to put this in. They weren't talking about it. Every day they were coming out talking about something that was fake every day. And I did my videos on Boris, you know, when he won the election and he's a diddy little thing in the road. They're all fake. They've got no feelings in it because it hasn't happened when they're filming it.
Well, Australia, there is no crash as far as they're concerned. They've just they're offering a $40,000 home builders grant to build a brand new house, like at $480,000 and above, sort of thing, which is what houses are sort of worth. And there's a housing crash coming, and so all these young people are buying houses because they only think the market can go up. It might go back a little bit, but it's going to go up. And because Australia doesn't have much virus and we're all starting to move, they don't realise how much of the world's economy is our economy. If they're not visiting or buying stuff, then we don't have any economy. And this is not the time to be buying houses. And at $500,000 house, are you kidding? It's just
the only thing I thought
insane.
trouble was obviously for a bit of that lockdown, NASA wasn't doing anything anyway, but they're supposed to give them $57 million a day. It's so disgusting. Imagine if they said, hey, we're going to sort the world out with this money, so there won't be homeless and poor people. That would be great. But that money, as we know, they're lying to us. That's the money they use for their politics, for the television, for the wars. They're using that money. So they've probably used that money and they've given, obviously all the countries, it's a bit like I thought Trump said to everybody, hey, is everybody all right? Everybody's economy's good? And then he walks out on stage and goes, we're in a lockdown. Everything's going to be bad. But really, behind the scenes, they all know their economies are good. They have to do. They've made it look like they're bad to us because they have to keep us in fear and lies. But basically, all the economies might be great. But we do know they'd want to get rid of money, don't they? They want to actually get rid of money, so they say.
Yeah, no, it's a changeover period. This isn't the first time we've had fractional reserve banking in the fiat currency. It's happened many times, and they last for 70 years, maybe 100. And we're at the 70-year mark now, and it's just it's only got so much to run. And it was supposed to crash in 2008, but they managed to make it extended, and they'll try to extend it again as long as they can. But I think from what I'm hearing from all the experts the so-called experts, the alternative experts, is that pretty much it sounds like every nation's waiting till after an election, which is insane. Why be the president or the prime minister that was the last one as your economy was falling, instead of being the one and then the next prime minister and you just inherit a pile of shit? Why not be the one that goes, you know what, we're going to change it before the crash comes. We're going to be responsible. We're going to say no to all this debt.
There's something else is going on there as well, because it was by accident, but they come into my feed box on YouTube. So sometimes I might not look for a couple of days, and then I go there and then I see all these videos. But what it was actually Boris talking to the UN, I think it was the UN, about our rights. And he kept using this word pluralism. And when I looked up pluralism, obviously it means doing things with people. And I was thinking, oh, there's New World Order. And he kept going on about, he was going on about our tech. He was going on about, we've got high tech, brown tech, we've got every tech in London that you could ever want, and at the same time, Trump is going, no, we're going to get the contracts. It's not going to London, and I'm thinking, what is this? Is this Boris going for a takeover or something? Because he's talking about pluralism, and we've got all this tech. We've got, which is, because don't forget, they've got most people on computers nowadays, haven't they?
Well, they're rolling. We knew that with technology there was going to be less jobs. And how do you introduce technology and get everybody to lose their jobs willingly? It's not easy, but it was coming anyway. And so is the universal income, I think, because there's just not going to be a lot of way to make money. We're running out of resources.
Well, that's what they're telling us. We don't know if any of this is true, do we? Because we're just listening to a load of rubbish.
Well, of the existing mines. Because everybody's just been doing other... I don't know.
Hey,
God,
do you know something? I can't
like
stop the video
everything.
now because obviously Gillian's on Facebook and we're talking through that. But there's a star, so it's getting light now. I told you I was up at dawn, and it's getting light over there, and I can see a star, one star on the roof over there, and there's no other stars in the sky, but there's light there and the stars there. I'll have to take a picture for you. Really weird that is.
Is that the one that's always there, or is it just a new one? Because that might be Jupiter if it's really bright.
It's quite low in the sky, and it's just over there. I'll take a picture for you, Gillian, and send it when we finish. But we've been going now for 35 minutes, Gillian.
Oh, I can talk forever, but yeah, okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we finish?
No, that's fine.
Okay, well, it's me and Gillian were talking before, and we'll probably talk for a few minutes afterwards. But it's been for this hangout, it's been a pleasure, all the way from Australia.
Okay, I'll say goodbye then.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Gillian. And chat
Thanks
room.
for having me.
Thank you very much.